This meeting is being recorded.
Hi, Judy.
Hi, Dr. N.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you too.
So I was thinking if you would be up for it, I was thinking we could do today is last week we talked about dysfunctional thoughts and distorted thought patterns. And I was thinking if you'd like to kind of examine one of your thoughts, one of your dysfunctional thoughts, and really investigate one of those thoughts and look at them to see what's actually going on with your dysfunctional thoughts. Would you be okay with that?
Yeah, so you mean I shall explain to you my negative thoughts at the moment, or what do you mean?
So last week you said a few things and that kind of stuck with me and that kind of made me curious. Yeah. So for example, you said that you tend to think about yourself like you're a failure. You said like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember that you said, well, I'm a failure at everything I do. Do you remember that you said that?
Yeah, that's how I felt last week. Yeah.
And so, I was curious about that thought because that thought made me think, and I was wondering if you would like to work on that thought. When I explained to you that the dysfunctional thought record, so we look at the thought and then we prove or we probe if that thought has evidence, and maybe if you can replace the thought, because if you tend to think negative thoughts, those thoughts tend to affect your behavior and your emotions. And because you said you've been depressed and you've been down for a couple of weeks, it's possible that the way you're thinking is influencing your emotions. And so, according to CBT, if we really pick a specific thought and look at it and ask, well, is that thought actually accurate? And how does that thought actually make you feel? Maybe we get somewhere.
I understand. Yeah, sure. Let's do that.
Okay. So that dysfunctional thought record, there's a couple of worksheets that you can fill out, and it can be very formal, but for now I just go through that with you in kind of an informal way, because it's the first time we're doing that. So the first question I would have is that thought that I am a failure at everything I do. Do you remember, or in what kind of situations does that thought come up?
Well, usually it comes up in situations that are related to men and to relationships, family. So, for example, when I have a date and then the date isn't working like I wanted to, and I feel like, okay, again it's not working, and again this man is not what I'm looking for, and then I immediately feel like, okay, I cannot do it, and I'm a failure, and I will never have a relationship again, and so I feel like a loser. And
okay, that's interesting. Can you think of a specific guy when that happened recently, just to work on the situation? Was there a recent date that you had, or what was happening in that situation?
Yeah, okay, let's take the situation with the guy I met the last date I went on. It was very, I was very nervous at the beginning, and I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I had very high expectations because I thought, okay, this might be a good guy for me, this might work. And then we met, and then it was very disappointing because he didn't act like I wanted him to. He didn't ask any questions, and he was not very interested in my person. And so, yeah, after the date, I gave him my number, and he didn't answer. And yeah, I was really sad, and I thought, okay, what is wrong with me? What did I do wrong? And I'm just not able to, yeah, to find a guy, to find a man.
Yeah. So you kind of assumed the way he reacted or the way he responded had something to do with you or with your worth or with the fact that
Yes,
you're a failure.
yes.
Okay.
I thought, okay, he's not answering, and so it must have been my fault. Maybe I didn't look very good, or I'm not in the best shape at the moment, and I was also very shy and didn't talk much. So I thought this must have been boring for him. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And when you thought that, well, that must be my fault, it's because I'm not good at getting anyone, it's because I'm not in shape. Do you remember how you felt? Like some people really feel like, oh well, when I really felt that in my body, like I felt, I don't know, like a knot in my stomach, or just felt really sad. Do you remember, or even now when you think about it, like how did that make you feel?
Mhm. Well, it's not so much on the physical side. I mean, I feel a bit, well, I feel I have like a little pressure on my chest. It's a bit difficult to breathe, but it's more like psychological, that I feel sad. I just feel really sad and depressed, and yeah, like a
Yeah,
loser.
yeah. And so CBT is always asking, or always trying, especially the dysfunctional thought model is trying to find evidence for your thoughts. So when you think, well, I'm a loser, right? Because this guy isn't responding or doesn't seem interested. Well, what kind of evidence do you have? Like what speaks for that assumption that you're a loser? The behavior of that person, right? Or would you say like what that's kind of evidence, or
I mean, yes, first the behavior, but also the fact that I'm single for 4 years now. I'm 40. I don't have a family. I don't have kids. So I think that's evidence enough that I'm a failure.
that's interesting. That's interesting. Um, is there a possibility to look at the situation in a completely different way? Like you said a lot of different things now. You said you know that situation with the guy, and then the fact that you don't have a family. So there's a lot of different areas, in fact, that make you feel like you're failing at something. But like let's stick with the guy. Like let's say a friend of yours would be in that situation, right? So a friend of yours would tell you that story. So what would you think? Would you also think, well, I mean, she's such a loser? Or would you think, well, maybe there are other explanations for the behavior of that person, of that man? Or what would you think in that situation?
Mhm. That's interesting. I wouldn't think that she is a failure or a loser. I would probably tell her that this guy is a dick, that he is not worth it, and that he's just, she just didn't find the right one yet. And I wouldn't think that she's a failure at all. Not at all.
And so how come you would think that about her, but you wouldn't, you would kind of evaluate that differently in your case?
I don't know. Good question.
Is that something you've been thinking for a long time? you know, I'm a failure, I can do this, or is it something that's quite recent? It's because you mentioned your age and something that just came up maybe some
Mhm.
few months ago, or is it something that um
Mhm. I had this thought already when I was a kid,
mm,
that I had a feeling that I'm not good enough and I cannot keep up with the others. And it's not always like that, but it's like in episodes. So it
mm,
comes and goes, but it was always there. So
mm.
it's nothing new.
Yeah, that's interesting because we briefly talked about core beliefs, right? So it sounds like this thought what you said, well, I'm not good enough, or which is basically I'm a failure, I'm a loser, all that kind of thinking is deeper than just a dysfunctional thought. So it sounds like it's a core belief, and core beliefs are, you know, kind of at the bottom of of uh, of that model. It's like our thoughts are influenced by our core beliefs. So if you have a core belief like that, it's not as easy. It's not as easy to change. And you know, I think we would need some more time to really go into that and to really talk about maybe a few things in the past. I mean, CBT is not focused on the past, it's focused on the here and now. But since it seems to be a thought that has been uh, manipulating you in a way for a long time, right? Because if you keep thinking, well, I'm a loser, I'm not good enough,
Mhm.
that influences your behavior, influences your self-esteem. So that's definitely something that I will make a note of. But maybe for next week, um, how would you feel if you, what you just said, what you would tell a friend, just as an exercise? How about
Mhm.
you think about that situation again that you described to me with that guy that you were meeting, but imagine it's not you, but it's
Mhm.
your friend. So imagine that
Yeah.
scenario, and then maybe as a homework practice, write out what you would tell her, what you would tell your friend if she'd say, well, ask you for advice, or just tell you that story and say, well, I'm such a loser, I'm a failure. And then write it out and then probe or test, how does that feel for you? So just test it out. There's no right and no wrong, but just if you read that response that you would give to your friend, how do I feel when I read this? How would I feel if could I actually believe that this applies to me? You know,
Mhm.
uh, do you feel awful just practicing that or just going through that?
Yeah.
Okay. And I say as a homework practice, maybe not just once, but maybe if you can make time, maybe every day, because you know thoughts are rigid, thoughts are
Mhm.
stubborn, right? And so when you look
Mhm.
at this at kind of a, yeah, what that is called is an adaptive response. So it's a different way of looking at a situation. So when you just look at it once, it's maybe not often enough. And I would just like to see as an experiment, if you want, if you look at it every day, if you can imagine that this adaptive response could apply to you as well. Is that clear? Is that
Okay.
confusing?
No, it's clear. I'm just a bit worried that it's not working, because I know it's about me and not about a friend of mine, and it's just really difficult to change perspectives. But
Yeah,
yeah, I can try.
yeah, yeah. Just as an exercise, just see what happens.
Mhm.
Yeah, and um, because as I said, what you've been describing, it sounds like this is very deep. And so just like
Mhm.
changing your thoughts, as you said, you know, it sounds like it might not work at all, at least not on the spot.
Mhm.
And so I would just like to see how far you get in 1 week, or maybe even if it doesn't work, maybe you have additional ideas how you could replace the thought that, oh, well, I'm a loser. Maybe you know, what other adaptive responses you could find.
Mhm. Okay, I got it.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, great. So do you have any more questions, or can we say, okay, we see each other next week?
I think I'm fine for now. No more questions.
Okay, so you can check in at any time if anything is unclear or okay.
Mhm.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah. Okay, have a great week, Judy.
Thank you, Dr. N. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.